So now that we have that, let's do some manual validation. Of course, later we are going to be seeing the built-in Django validation, the built-in Django form. But for now, let's see how validation work. Of course, there's some user that can be very tricky, and when you tell them enter their full name, then they can enter they can enter number. Of course, we don't want that. But let's see how all this validation work. Of course, this is the hard way. Later, we are going to be seeing the easy way where we can use built-in Django validation to validate our user entry. So let's see the manual validation. Let me just call this manual validation in action. So now that we know that we definitely be expecting input from the user, and the input is going to be attached to this variable full name. So what you just need to do is just go the way of if the full name. Of course, we want to check if it is not empty, because if it is empty, then we don't want to take it from the user. We don't want the field to be empty. And of course, even if it's not empty, we want to be sure and that the length, of course, to check length in Python, you use len, and that is to check the length of a string. So we then go the way of full name. The length of the string is either greater than or equals to, of course, a typical full name should not be less than 10 characters, or let me say 7 characters. Even if your name is three letter words, surname and first name, combination of the two with the space, should not be less than it should not be less than 7. So of course, if this is true, then it means that there's an error. So if it's, of course, if it is less than or equals to 7, or let me say less than or equals to 6, less than or equals to 6, of course it should be more than this, then that means there's an error. So if the full name is none, there's an error, or if the full name is less than or equals to 6, there's an error. So to do that, let's just render the form feed, return render, and now we return the user back to the page. Now just copy this URL, but this time around I'm going to be passing a flag to this form feed, and I'm going to be telling the user that has error, like the page has error, and I'm going to be setting that to true. I'm going to be setting that to true. I'm setting that to true. So now that we have that, so what we just need to do is that we should now go to the template and deal with that. Of course, this is only visible to the programmer or the backend developer to see that, okay, this input has an error, but for you to let the user know that what you have entered, there's an error, then what you just need to do is just come to the template, and in here, don't forget that we are passing the parameter as error to this template. So what you just need to do is just come in here and define an if-else statement to show that, of course, you then come here and then say, then define. Don't forget, if you want to write logic, you use the curly braces and the percentage symbol. So we then go the way of if as error, which is what we are getting from here. This as error is coming from here. So if as error, then you come in here and define the and if. So when you define the if statement, you should let Django know where the if statement is ending or is stopping. So everything in here is going to be displayed if there's an error with the user input. If there's an error with the user input, so we just say that, can just say that full name is required. Or let's just say invalid entry. Full name is required or too short. So if I save it now, to see our as error in action, let's go back to our form. If I refresh now, and I'd say, let me just put in 2 let me just try to enter nothing, and I click on submit. You can see that I have the error of okay, invalid entry, full name is required or too short. Okay, now require I put TI, just 2 characters, and I submit. I get the same thing. Get the same. So if I put of course it's not giving me the error again. Let's look at our logic to be sure that we're defining things correctly. Now if it is none, or it should not be an, or the length is less than or equals to 6. Of course, and means the two must be true, or means one of it must be true. So either it is none or the length is less than 6, then this should be executed. But if it is or, it means that any of it, and if you look at it, if the full name is empty string, then this should be executed, or if it is less than 6. But the other time the name is not none, but the length is less than 6. But because we use and, the two must be true. But in that case the true is not true, because this is actually false, because I've entered 2 letters. So you should try and test your code appropriately. Now that we have that, we can then go ahead and test our application again by just putting ti, which is 2 characters, and I submit. And now I am still not getting the error. Of course I'm getting the error now. The length of full name is less than or equals to 6. Of course nothing changed, but there are some times that if your application, you feel you have put in the right logic but it's still not working, then you can just try to stop the server and then restart it again, and come in here and ensure that you do possibly add refresh. And now if I put in ti, which is 2 characters, then I'm still getting the error. So if I put in character that is more than 6, then I should not get the error again. Of course there's no error again. Now if I put 2 characters, then I'm still getting the error. If I put 3 characters, because I don't want it to be less than 6, then I'm still getting the error. So sometimes when you have to do the right thing and the error still persists, all you just need to do sometimes is just to stop the development server. After you have stopped the development server, then come and restart it, then do an add refresh, then do an add refresh. Now we are giving the user a clue of what the error is all about. So now that we have been able to deal with the error of okay, if the form is not valid, then don't submit, don't collect from the user, but if it is valid, then collect it from the user.